Hi, I'm Beth Chapman, Managing Director of Starlinks Global. With so many different terms and tariff rules floating around, I want to start with a back to basics approach before diving into the latest changes. By breaking this down step by step and using a real product example, I'll show you what's changing, what it means for retailers, and how you can adapt quickly. So let's start with the big headline. The plan to remove de minimis for all countries by July 2027 has been brought forward by almost 2 years. From the 29th of August 2025, the $800 duty-free threshold disappears. That means every shipment, with some very limited exceptions based on commodity type, no matter its value, will now attract duties and tariffs, and country of origin is mandatory for every shipment. Before we talk about impact, here's a quick refresher on the different tariff types. IEEPA tariffs, special tariffs brought in under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Section 301 tariffs from the 2018 trade war targeting goods from China. Section 232 tariffs, also from 2018, mainly affecting steel and aluminium for national security reasons. And then the standard duty rate, the baseline duty every product category has. These stack together, so for some products you're not looking at one tariff, you're looking at several. So let's turn to commercial clearance methods and what they are. When goods enter the US, they're cleared in different ways. Type 86 is the most commonly used commercial clearance method for low-value goods under the $800 de minimis threshold. Type 86 won't be able to be used for any shipment subject to duties and tariffs from the 29th of August 2025. Type 11, which is classed as an informal entry. Most volume that was being commercially cleared by Type 86 will migrate to Type 11 from the 29th of August as duties and tariffs can be collected. Type 11 can be used up to $2,500 in value. Type 01, which is classed as a formal entry. This is also an option that can be used for collecting duties and tariffs and tends to be used for high value goods over $2,500 or those needing special handling. When migrating into either Type 11 or Type 01, it's important to be aware that there are additional data points that you may never have thought about needing before, such as mid-codes, so please do reach out for help and advice on these. So let's talk about postal clearance. There will be a notable difference for the first 6 months on postal clearance after de minimis is removed, as shipments will initially be subject only to IEEPA tariffs based on the country of origin of the product and will not require preparation of an entry by CBP. This is only until the systems are in place for postal entries to be written into the CBPA system, and once this is in place, all applicable duties and tariffs will be collected in postal, just like commercial clearance. There is an alternative flat rate option instead of the IEEPA tariffs that is available for the first circa 6 months, ranging between $80 to $200 per item, and is linked to which IEEPA tariff rate a country has. However, these are unlikely to be used due to how high they are, so I would almost discount them. Clarification is still being sought from CBP on what happens with parcels that have items of different origins within them. For example, if a parcel contains 3 items, one of China origin, one of UK origin, and one of Turkey origin, will the 3 separate IEEPA tariffs be applied to each item of 30%, 10%, and 15% respectively, or will the highest rate of 30% be applied to the value of the parcel? The belief is that the highest rate will be applied. It's also important to be aware that required data points through postal clearance are going to need to be more detailed than they have ever been before, including detailed descriptions and HS codes, so please do reach out for help and advice on these. Here's where it gets tricky. Since de minimis was withdrawn on China and Hong Kong origin goods on the 2nd of May, No parcels from Hong Kong Post or China Post have entered via Postal due to airline carriers refusing to become the liable party and take on responsibility for collecting, calculating and remitting the duty to CBP. From the 29th of August, Postal will no longer have a DDU option. All duties and tariffs must be collected and remitted directly to CBP, so DDP will become the only option. Whilst the system is being developed for postal entries to be written into the CBPA system, the onus will be on either the airline carriers to collect and remit duties and tariffs to CBP, or by another party if qualified, in lieu of transportation carriers, as specified in the July 30th executive order that suspended de minimis for all countries. Without the other qualified party enabling the collection and remittance of the IEPA tariffs to CBP and taking on the liability, postal viability in the short term is in question. CBP are due to issue guidance imminently, confirming who those other qualified parties are. Subject to the CBP guidance being in line with our expectations on qualified parties, we are actively working to ensure that we can continue to offer our customers a postal option alongside the already compliant commercial clearance options where needed. And just to complicate things further, on the 28th of May 2025, the US Court of International Trade issued a landmark ruling declaring that the tariffs introduced under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA, including the so-called Liberation Day reciprocal tariffs, were unlawfully imposed. The ruling is being appealed by the US government and working its way through the court process at the moment, and unbelievably refunds may have to be paid on IEPA tariffs already collected. If courts rule against IEPA tariffs, shipments moving through commercial clearance would still pay standard duty rate plus Section 301 or 232 duties if appropriate, and it is believed the administration will find alternative ways to also apply the reciprocal tariffs. Postal de minimis could be reinstated temporarily until systems are ready to collect the standard duty and the Section 301 or 232 duties if appropriate. So what does all of this mean in practice? It's the end of the de minimis era. Every shipment, with some very limited exceptions based on commodity type, will now attract duties and tariffs. Commercial clearance entry pathways currently have the clearest framework for immediate compliance from the 29th of August. Postal could offer a short-term advantage, but only if airline carriers or other qualified parties agree to take on the liability of collection and remittance of the IEPA tariffs to CBP. Retailers are rethinking cross-border trade in light of new tariffs, and many intend to bake duties and tariffs into product prices to protect conversion at checkout. But without a clear view of the duty and tariff impact, it's guesswork. So remove the guesswork with our calculator, which helps bring clarity. There is no integration required. It estimates duties and tariffs from the HS code, the country of origin and product value, and it allows you to adjust pricing, duty collection methodology, and customer communications. It matters because the right strategy can mean the difference between happy customers and abandoned shopping carts, and we want to ensure that as retailers you are able to make decisions and have the confidence to continue shipping to one of the largest e-commerce markets in the world. So let's work through some examples to show our calculator in action. So example, the t-shirt. Let's take a simple example. You sell a t-shirt for $20. Under the old system, no duty or tariffs. Customers just pay $20. Now the landed cost will be higher. We have our white cotton t-shirt, made in the UK, retail value of $20. Under commercial clearance, this now attracts the standard duty rate for its HS code of 16.5%, plus the applicable IEPA tariff, which for the UK is 10%. So total duties and tariffs due on that $20 t-shirt made in the UK is $5.30. We have another t-shirt that's for sale for $20, But the difference this time is even though this is being sent to the US from a UK-based retailer, the t-shirt was made in China. So the same $20 t-shirt is subject to the standard duty rate for its HS code of 16.5%, plus a 7.5% Section 301 tariff as the t-shirt was made in China, plus the two 10% fentanyl IEEPA tariffs as the t-shirt was made in China, plus a 10% reciprocal tariff. So total duties and tariffs due on that $20 t-shirt made in China is $10.80. Let's look at the same t-shirt and what happens if it's sent under postal clearance, if viable, where only IEEPA tariffs will apply in the short term. That same $20 t-shirt made in the UK will only be subject to the IEEPA tariff, which for the UK is 10%, so the tariff due will be $2. However, this will only be until the systems are in place for postal entries to be written into the CBPA system, and then the duties and tariffs due through postal on that t-shirt made in the UK would have been $5.30, exactly the same as through commercial clearance. Let's look at the same t-shirt again, being sent under postal clearance if viable, where only IEEPA tariffs will apply in the short term. This t-shirt was made in China, not in the UK, but is still being sent to the US by a UK-based retailer. The two 10% fentanyl tariffs and the 10% reciprocal IEEPA tariffs apply, totaling 30%, so the tariff due will be $6. However, this will only be until the systems are in place for postal entries to be written into the CBPA system, and then the duties and tariffs due through postal would have been $10.80, exactly the same as through commercial clearance for the t-shirt made in China, but sent to the US by a UK-based retailer. If you want to keep receiving clear, practical updates like this as things develop, make sure you're subscribed to our Starlinks Global US trade updates. You'll find the latest news on the tariff changes, access helpful resources, and can book a free call with one of our experts for advice on how these changes could affect your business. Or alternatively, please reach out to me or any one of the Starlinks Global team on LinkedIn. Thank you.